In today's video, we will once again be predicting the peak of October, when price is likely to reach its highest point in the month of this month, October. And we're going to be using statistics to actually accomplish that goal. We'll also be going over a few other things, especially with the weekly closure for Bitcoin CME coming up a little bit later today. A lot of very, very interesting things kind of going on. And I really want to be bringing in the whole picture, the overview of the competing statistics that we do see as far as what to expect in the beginning of this month versus the end of this month. And of course, I want to reiterate that as we have gone over on this channel several times now, we were kind of experiencing, or not experiencing, we were kind of saying that, or suggesting, yes, that's the word I'm looking for, that defensiveness in the first portion of this month, the first week especially, is very likely going to be warranted, as Bitcoin does typically put in a major low around that time in the month of October. But from there, what happens? What's next? And that is what the focus of today is going to be. So here we go. All of these vertical bars over here represent past Octobers, of which I've gone through each and every one and documented exactly where the high and the low is of that month. So just revisiting these statistics from before, going over the October lows, we did find that generally the lows of October were put in before the first 10 days of October. In fact, if we do get rid of a couple of outliers, which as you can see, we've only seen the low of October happen twice in the third week or later, the third week of October, then that number actually goes down to around 7. So about the first week, of which we're on day number 4 of October as of right now. Especially when the weekly trend is up or just the general trend is up, that number goes down to 7. So moving on from there and looking at the October highs, I found that if we look at all of the highs of October, the average date for the high of October was late in the month, actually around or a little bit after the third week of October beginning. So we're still, quite some time from that number. Now, I do want to address that we really only saw twice where the low, or sorry, not the low, but the high of October came in within the first few days. And that was 2011 and 2012 respectively. Both very early on years in Bitcoin's history. You might argue that these times were maybe not to be, accounted for. So if I were to get rid of these outliers right here, or what I would consider outliers, that would bring the number up all the way to basically 25, which is, well, quite significant. Now I will put them back on the board just, so that we have thoroughness sake here. But I also did differentiate this data between weekly uptrend or just general uptrend versus general downtrend, and found that again, when you do have a general uptrend, this average is actually after the third week. So very likely we see the high of October later on in the month of October. As you can, if you just parse through the data right here, it becomes very obvious that generally October flows favor the end of the month for positive price action. And even in downtrends, it still is kind of the same, although we do have sometimes where, the low happened about, the middle of the month. So that definitely has happened as well. But, oh, holy shit, there goes my camera. All right, well, fair enough. Fuck you. I don't need to see you anyways. I'm talking to myself, not you. You're lovely, you're great. But my ugly face needs to be hidden from YouTube at this moment. Anyways, moving on from there, and let me just reference my notes right in over here. We do have several things actually coalescing in the background as far as technicals do go. I want to bring you over to this chart. 4-hour time frame is starting to print or actually confirm a few drives here of bullish divergence. We'll see if that actually does save Bitcoin. But of course, that is not just on its own. As we went over in yesterday's video, and by the way, the 4-hour jewel actually having a pretty damn good signal over here as well. So I do think that Bitcoin is going to at least attempt for a decent bounce here. But as we went over in yesterday's video, there is potential for hidden bullish divergence, although still unconfirmed, between this low back on over here in middle of September versus this low or potential for low that we're seeing in early October. Again, higher lows on price action with the lower lows on the RSI oscillator within the context of an uptrend is potential for hidden bullish divergence. How would you confirm this as a local low right here? Need to see Bitcoin pop back up and close back above Wednesday's high, which was 62,400. If you see that, then yes, hidden bullish divergence confirmed. Very likely Bitcoin will retest the highs that we did see in late September, and in my opinion, probably go upwards and onwards from there. And this is also coming in combination with essentially just a retest, or not a retest, but a test of the 50% retracement that you do see right here from the high to the low of this last move. Again, beginning in early September and ending here in late September. September also seeing the lows early on in the month and then highs later on in the month. So I do think that that does deserve some consideration. Again, this one is unconfirmed as of right now, but you can kind of see how one domino might lead to the next, and this would be a good technical area to be aware of as we went over. I believe this was earlier on in the week as an area of interest for downside price action. Still, until that happens, there is a threat of one more downside move, at least in my opinion, which could bring Bitcoin, close to about $58,000, give or take $500 from that number. But overall, things are starting to, align here for this area, the 59.5 tick, as potentially being the low. We are seeing several things now going on. Now, I also want to bring you over to, of course, our momentum charts with the weekly time frame closing for CME later today in 15 hours, 10 minutes, and 51 seconds and counting. And we actually will see the weekly stochastic also to continue to the upside, assuming that Bitcoin closes above 59,700, which right now, it is almost $2,000 above. It's had a few attempts this week around that number, and all have been rejected thus far. Of course, Friday is a big day. We do have some economic events coming in later today, and really until U.S. markets open, we don't really have like a real sense of like where things are going to be. But so far, so good. And if Bitcoin does close above that number, again, just another sort of thing in the background that would suggest, hey, that's going to be more good than bad, at least for the boolahs of this world. Let me see. Do I have? Nope. That's my. Maybe we can go over that a little bit later. What else did I want to go over? Yes, the HPDR, as always, again, weekly here for CME. You can see that the median has provided the impetus for a bit of support, if you want to call it that, at 60,750. Again, really want to see Bitcoin close above that number today for CME, not just 59,750 as we went over in the prior chart, as keeping the hopes up for this being the next higher low here. This can again take another. Hey, looks like my bot is doing my work, my dirty works. That's right, you little slave fucker. Do it now. Do it now. I think this is this strategy. No, this is not the strategy that I'm playing right there. That one, however, probably does open relatively soon. Anyways, going back into it here, let me get rid of that note. And yes, okay, where was I? Let me just reference my notes. Okay, yes, that's where we were. We'd like to see Bitcoin close above that number again. That would keep the Boolah's hopes, alive. And also in the daily right here, you can see that the Bitcoin on CME is caught between the 38.2 level and the 50% level for historical returns. Again, if Bitcoin does close above the 38.2 level, which is 61,500 by end of day, that would be another sort of domino suggesting that, hey, Bitcoin very likely does dig itself in here and put in a higher low. But still, I want to see Bitcoin pop back up above Wednesday's high in order to really confirm that, and thus very likely initiate a move back up towards the September highs. Maybe a short-term correction there, but that very likely does align with price probably continuing to the end of this month, probably making new highs above your September highs as well throughout that time. But hey, one thing before the next, and of course it all kind of hinges upon Bitcoin's ability to stay above the critical numbers that we spoke about today, while keeping these statistics over here in mind. It always just blows my fucking mind when I go over these statistics, and there's always some people on YouTube who are like, it looks like you're wrong again. It's like, statistics cannot be wrong, sir. Like, you are a fucking moron. You're a lobotomized moron. And it is what it is. That is just what it is when it comes to the YouTubes. Also, I completely forgot to mention this as well, but as we went over in yesterday's video, the 5-day time frame HPDR median also providing the nice balancing point thus far. So, as long as Bitcoin's above these pivots, which are all kind of coming in, if you've been paying attention, around basically the same numbers, let's just call it $60,000, give or take about 500 from that number. That's really going to keep the Boolah's hopes alive for Bitcoin actually putting in, a higher low here. While, the market seems to be kind of spooked. It's very spooked. We can just very briefly check in on traditional markets as well, see what SPY futures are doing. Still kind of hanging around this region. This, again, would be my biggest consideration for things coming down a little bit more is just, there's a nice little gapola here for SPY futures to fill down around 56.50, which probably is going to be, would still be another higher low. Looking at the weekly, closing around here is not weak in my opinion. nor is the monthly. I mean, I still think that this market is going for a little while longer, as is probably crypto too. But hey, those are my areas where things change around. It's the same, more or less same areas as before. Again, I would really only get like super bearish on Bitcoin at this point if we do see it anywhere below the September lows. Until then, it seems to me like things are on higher low watch, and the reversal is potentially in progress, but very likely unconfirmed today. Probably if and when it is going to be confirmed, probably coming in next week again, because of these stats right here with Bitcoin October lows. We typically see that around day number 7 to 10, depending upon how you calculate that. So better to be defensive throughout this time, as we have been saying. And the 7th day of October comes in when, according to my calendar, next Monday, this coming Monday, actually. So just a few days away. Anyways, all right, that's going to do it for today. As always, I want to wish you the best of the best. Take care. Much love. I'll go charge my camera now, and we will see each other hopefully very soon.